Well, Sean and Carolyn Savage wanted just one more baby. So when they found out that Carolyn was pregnant, you'd think they would have been thrilled. But there was just one problem. Their baby wasn't theirs.
There's a child that lives 150 miles north of my home who I pray for every night before I go to bed. I have hopes and dreams for him.
Carolyn had the pregnancy test that morning, and it's very unusual to be waiting that long for the results. The first thing the doctor said was, "Do you have privacy?" And he said that Carolyn was pregnant, but they had transferred another couple's embryos. It was incredibly devastating news. Everything else in life just went away.
And I just, no. I mean, I just thought, no, that can't happen. One of my most immediate thoughts was of the other mother. And oh my goodness, what would it be like to get that news that your embryo is inside of a stranger? There's no way I'm gonna take that away from somebody else. We wouldn't do that.
You'd be somewhere, you'd be doing something, and then you just shake your head. Is this real? Is this real?
You know, I'd catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror and I'd think, pregnant, not my baby. I knew that I was gonna give birth to a child that was gonna leave the hospital with another family. How in the world am I gonna survive that?
We got dealt this, and we're trying to handle it as best we can, and it was incredible to have this child come into the world, and we don't get to raise him, but he has the opportunity for life.
Sean and Carolyn Savage are with us now. This is a complicated story. Let's go back and start at the beginning for people who've not yet had the privilege of reading your book. You had 2 children and you wanted one more, but you were dealing with some fertility issues. So what did you do?
Well, we decided to pursue the process of in vitro fertilization, which by the grace of God worked, and we were able to conceive our daughter, Mary Kate, and she was born in March 2008. During that process, we created more embryos than could be safely transferred, so we had those cryopreserved for future pregnancy attempts. When Mary Kate was 6 months old, we decided to go back and try again, and we did what's called a frozen embryo transfer. And unfortunately, during that process, they made a terrible mistake, and they thawed and transferred another couple's embryos into me. So I found myself pregnant with somebody else's child.
Who got the call? Was it you, Sean, who got the call?
Yes, I received the call.
What went through your head when someone said this? I mean, did you even know what your options were? What did you think?
I immediately thought about Carolyn. I mean, after the shock took hold, I just wanted to get home. I was at my office. I just needed to go home.
And you had to tell her.
I had to tell her, but I wanted to do it in person. And I knew that I knew it was a life-changing situation immediately, and I just needed to be with her.
You guys are very strongly pro-life, obviously. You're pro-family, you're pro-children, you're pro-parenting. Right. So when this happened, what was your first discussion with each other like?
He told me, and within just a few seconds, we kind of looked at each other and knew exactly what we were being called to do. This was a choice, and it was an opportunity for us to walk our talk and to let God work through us to bring this child into this world. And we did exactly what we would have expected somebody else to do for us if we were on the flip side of the situation.
It is a very strange scenario that you found yourself in, because no matter whose frozen embryo it is, no matter whose genetics are involved in the whole thing, the baby is being carried by you. And here you were wanting a pregnancy of your own and now needing to celebrate life, knowing you were going to have to give it up. What did that call forth from you as a couple?
It called forth amazing faith. I think we went through some very rough times, just like all of us do in life. And you know, this was a call for us to stand up and walk our talk. And I think, you know, we had some rough times, but thank goodness we have a strong core center of faith. There was not one second in this journey where we did not feel God's arms wrapped around us. And although at times it was incredibly tough, and you catch yourself asking that great question, why? Yeah. I think that's when we're called to our faith. Yeah. And that's the most important time, when we cling to what we believe in.
There are a lot of people watching right now who are maybe participating in IVF themselves, in vitro fertilization, who are saying, how in the world did this happen? And do we have to be afraid? Sean, how did it happen?
Well, it was a simple clerical error. Our embryo,
so to speak.
Yeah, our embryo sheet was supposed to be called up, and the doctor, embryologist, went to a large binder, and instead of pulling our embryo sheet out, pulled another embryo sheet out of somebody that had the same last name, and then that sheet calls them to go and pull embryos out of basically a freezer, and they pulled the other couple's embryos out. They put all of our names, all of our information on the material from that point forward, and no one ever went back into that file to look during a 5-day process that the mistake was made. And so the fate was sealed at that point.
You know, a lot of people, I think, would wonder what I know you're saying you did what you felt you would want someone else to do if it had been your own embryo, but what were your legal options?
You know, the doctor immediately laid out our options for us, and he encouraged us to terminate. And we, in just one fell swoop of a second, said, no way. Obviously, that is a legal option that I have afforded to me, but it was certainly no moral option, and it wasn't an option that was available to us in our own faith life. At that point on, we were just basically treated like I was a gestational carrier, and which is kind of a rough road, because I think women who choose to do that, that's a wonderful life-giving gift that they can give a family, but
they make that choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There's something to be said for
that.
Yeah,
I really empathized with you as I was reading your book about the kind of normal conversations that a couple who are pregnant, you know, come to in just social surroundings where everybody wants to talk about your baby. Are you excited? How many children do you have? And I mean, you really had to endure this whole emotional crisis over and over and over again. How did you keep this, Sean, from putting pressure on your relationship?
We did it. It did strain at times, but we came back to that core of who we are, what our marriage is about, what we're called upon in life. Yeah. I mean, we had a baby to protect. Yeah. We had a life to usher into this world, even though we'd not be able to raise him. There was no way we couldn't connect with him. And we talk about that first ultrasound when we saw his heartbeat. And at that moment, the connection was incredible. Yeah. And we knew this is a child of God. This is a child that is meant to be here. And it's our duty to bring him into the world. And I got to witness an amazing strength by Carolyn through this process. What she did to give this gift and turn what could be something that would be absolutely devastating into just a beautiful gift was
unbelievable. Amazing. What was it like for you the moment that baby Logan was born?
Oh, well, just like any other childbirth, it was a complete and total miracle. He came out, he was feisty, he was screaming. We had talked and worked through that process in great detail with a faith-based counselor that we worked with. And we wanted it to be a moment of celebration. I was smiling ear to ear. You would never know in that moment that he was not our biological child. He is a gift. And we celebrated his entrance into the world just like every child should be celebrated in that moment. It was hard when they took him away.
Well, and Logan wasn't the only child that Carolyn and Sean lost that month. We'll have more of their story when we return. You don't want to miss this. Great pictures. Well, we're back with Carolyn and Sean Savage, and just a week after you relinquished custody of Logan, which really happened basically on the heels of his birth, this time you suffered another blow. You had a few embryos left that had been thawed. Tell me about the decision that you made.
Well,
this happened during the time you were pregnant.
Right. Shortly into my pregnancy with Logan, we were told that this was going to be my last pregnancy. I just couldn't handle any more babies. So we knew that we had to find a gestational carrier to finish what we had tried to finish ourselves. And so we did. We found a wonderful Christian woman who volunteered to help us. And she underwent a transfer in August and became pregnant. So on the day I delivered Logan, I knew that our baby was growing with her, and that was a wonderful blessing. But a week later, she miscarried. And that was tough.
All the embryos that you had.
Right. I mean, we've exhausted all the embryos that we had originally gone back to use. However, in that moment, I remember kind of just curling up on the chair and remembering something our counselor said to us, and that was that the only way out is through. At that point, I kind of raised my hands and said, you know, how much more is there? But you know, that is life.
Yeah.
We just don't know what's around the corner. And again, you have to fall back on your faith and just keep fighting through it.
There's so much that's rich in your book for everyone, not just people who find themselves in the unusual and really devastating situations that you did. But there was the lesson of the answer being on the other side of going through. But there was also something you said in the book, Sean, about the fact that this made you stronger, better, deeper people for the journey. Talk about that.
It is. Our marriage has never been better than it is today. We were challenged. We believe we rose to that challenge.
Yeah.
There's a soul out there. There's a soul out there because of what Carolyn did. I was there to try to support her as best I could. Yeah. But we're better today. We're stronger. Our relationship with God is deeper. What everybody can pull out of this book, there's a number of things. We really feel like we needed to share this because as we went through, there were just so many things we learned. There were so many people that helped us, and we feel like we now need to share with the world. This is about respecting life. This is about the sanctity of marriage. This is about the beauty of motherhood. And I really believe those are enduring things that, as a society, we need to hold up. And we need the support of folks. We need the support of this community. And we feel compelled to share.
And I want to say this, that you didn't always have the support of everybody around you. You kind of had to search that out a little bit and find the right people. I know that there was a point where you went through some things. You all are Roman Catholic, and you went through some things with church decision-making that made you feel very isolated at a time where you really needed encouragement. The encouragement came from your local body of believers, but sometimes it's easy for people at the top to make decisions when they're not walking through the fire and all of that. How did you handle that and keep your faith strong?
I think, again, sometimes it's easier to make a statement, and that's what happened in our case. The hierarchy of the church made a statement about the immoralness, if you will, of in vitro fertilization. It was the day the baby was born. That was very poor timing, in my opinion. And you know, we had upheld the church's teachings on the sanctity of life. Sean and I believe strongly that there is a way to navigate the science of in vitro fertilization to help bring more Christian, more God-loving children into this world in a way that respects life. And that's something that we're looking forward to kind of discussing. But on the ground level, we were ministered to in a very loving way, and for that we'll be eternally grateful.
Can I ask you, have you had any relationship with Logan? Have you seen him since he was born? I know you had relationship with his parents, his genetic parents, along the process of your pregnancy, but where is that at today?
We've seen him twice. We saw him once when he was 3 months old and once when he was 9 months old. And his parents do send us photos and emails and little video clips, and we're very grateful for those. We've always been very consistent with the idea that they did not ask for this. They are his mom and dad, and that they will defer judgment to them on whatever role we play in his life. That's tough.
Yes.
Because I think about him all the time, just like we think about our other kids. But it is the way it has to be. It's the right thing to do for him, and I hope someday we get to know him.
I know that sometimes people go through postpartum depression. Not every woman does, but now you had all of this pressure on you as a couple as you were going through the pregnancy. Now you have a baby. Your body's reacting as though you have a baby to hold and to love and to nurse and to do all the things that you're supposed to do. What in the world did you do during that time to keep yourself from just being overwhelmed with despair?
I think we sought out help, which is incredibly important. When it comes to the issue of postpartum depression, it's incredibly important that families, couples, women, mothers take those warning signs very seriously. We had the help of our faith-based counselor, I had a women's counselor, and together with my physician, we were able to navigate through that. And again, faith, very, very important in that process.
Well, it's an amazing story. The book is called Inconceivable. It's a perfect title for the kind of situation that Sean and Carolyn found themselves in. It's available in bookstores nationwide. You will probably never know the impact you have on lives by sharing so candidly what you went through. But thank you so much for your regard for life and for family.
Thank you. We appreciate all the support.
It's great to have you.